Yellowstone National Park was opened in 1872 in Wyoming. Wolves were absent for nearly 70 years until they were reintroduced in January 1995. The diet of the grizzly bear has been missing for much of the past because they ruled and ate all animals. No one else could match or challenge them. There were less rabbits due to the predation of coyotes. The climate was not great before the reintroduction of wolves because of the imbalanced food chain which occurred. Large carnivores have affected the ecosystem and they maintained order, which even changed the climate. Grizzly bears have created imbalance by killing many of their predators.
Elk populations rose in 1930s. Trapping and moving elk was used to try and control the population, and when that didn't work, they began to kill the elk off. They didn't move much during the winter, and they grazed on willows, aspen, and cottonwood, and this hurt the beavers because they used the willows for their dams. Before reintroduction, there was only one beaver colony in Yellowstone Park. The coyote populations also increased, which affected the antelope population.
In January of 1995, after more than a decade-long debate, 14 wolves were introduced to Yellowstone National Park. These wolves were reintroduced into Yellowstone for a couple of reasons. The main reason was due to the fact that the elk populations did extremely too well after the 1930s when the wolves were killed off in Yellowstone. This led to an extreme amount of elk, pushing the carrying capacity of Yellowstone. This extreme amount of elk caused a decline in the amount of young willow, aspen, and cottonwood plants, which also had a huge impact on the amount of beaver in Yellowstone, who need willows to survive in winter. Therefore, these wolves were reintroduced to prey on the elk, lowering the amount in the park and to hopefully increase the amount of plants, which in theory would increase the amount of other animals in the park. These wolves were captured in the Rocky Mountains of western Alberta and placed in 3 large pens in Yellowstone. These pens were about an acre in size and located in the northeast part of the park, near the Lamar Valley. Rose Creek, Crystal Creek Bench, and Soda Butte were the names of the 3 packs that were separated into different pens. These wolves were held in these pens to help reintroduce them with the local diet, local sounds and smells, and to give them that time to mate. This method is known as the soft release method. Around March, after 3 months of holding these wolves together, they were released to explore Yellowstone on their own.
After the wolves were reintroduced, there were many aspects of Yellowstone that began to change. The beaver population increased to 9 colonies after the reintroduction of wolves. Pressure by the wolves moved the elk around, decreasing their amount of foraging among the willows, aspen, and cottonwood. This allowed the beaver to feed more on the willow and the willow population to grow. Because wolves were reintroduced, they contributed to the feeding of scavengers such as ravens, eagles, coyotes, and bears, who can now eat wolf-killed elk instead of relying on winter-killed elk. As of December 2014, the wolf population in Yellowstone was 104 wolves in 11 different packs.
Wolves were reintroduced in Yellowstone to save the decline in the population of willows, aspen, and beavers because of the overgrown population of elks, but did it really help? Ecologists have different viewpoints about this. Willows are still dying because the elk will still eat the willows because they are hungry. It doesn't matter if there are wolves around. Elk can sometimes be bigger than wolves in some cases, and they live in herds so they can protect themselves if wolves are around. The number of elk has declined, but the elk haven't changed their eating habits because the interactions between wolves and elk are still pretty low. There is a major decline in the population of elks, but there are other factors that could explain why the elk population has declined. More bears, human hunting, and severe drought. This could not be helping because it is too late. The willow population was pretty much non-existent when wolves were reintroduced, so it didn't matter much when the elk population declined. The number of beavers is increasing and the willows and aspen are growing, but it hasn't helped as much as they had originally hoped for.